Now, up until now, we spent a lot of time in this section really laying the foundation, laying the groundwork for how to live with conviction. So looking at these values, these responsibilities, your major definite purpose. What I want to talk to you a little bit now is about what this looks like on a daily basis. You're probably realizing to live some of these values and move faster and more efficiently towards achieving your goals, there are some behaviors that you may have to change. Some of them may be significant. Now, the best, cleanest, but most vague advice I can give you on this is to look at your goals and your values and your responsibilities and ask yourself, who do I have to become to really live this? What does that guy look like? And how does he show up? And how does he talk? And how does he act? And that will give you a little bit of a vision. And all you have to do is every day move closer to being that guy. Here's the thing. Oftentimes when we try to imagine that, there can be a little bit of a fuzzy blank in what it looks like. So what I want to do is give you some tips and really tell you about some things that I have adopted in my life that I found have made me so much more effective and have allowed me to create things and do things faster than I would ever have done before. So this is a little bit of me sharing. The truth is, as I said on the last video, the man that you choose to become is 100% your choice. So some of these things that I described may not be a fit for him, but consider them, and even in rejecting them, you may choose something else that previously may not have been an option for you. So one of the important things to show up on a daily basis and really live this level of conviction is to constantly remind yourself of this major definite purpose that you've created, to constantly have it in front of mind. That means you meditate on it, you journal on it, you talk to people about it. Select the right people, the ones that can understand it, the ones that will support you, but talk about it regularly. Make it a big part of your life. It's absolutely 100% true to say that people who are high performers and high achievers in our culture are often considered by everyone else to be obsessed. And I want you to consider the possibility that being a little bit more obsessed than you are or you have been in the past would be powerful. There's nothing wrong with being a little bit obsessed. In fact, consider this. I truly believe that men who are obsessed and living it are way happier than guys who are drinking beer, watching sports, and doing very little with their lives. So obsession, consider it as a possibility of something you may want to have a little bit more of. So let me give you some other ideas here. You see, when you become a man of conviction, you also by default become a leader of people, of your community, of your business, of your family. You see, the majority of people live every day in a high level of chaos, uncertainty, and doubt. You may recognize that. You may have lived there in the past. Because of this, when people experience a man who has certainty, conviction, direction, self-belief, confidence, it is very natural that people want to be around you, people want to follow you, people want to be inspired by you, which is great. It's another layer of responsibility, but it's great. So as a leader, you have these responsibilities. One of the things I'll share with you very quickly is that oftentimes a leader looks like he knows what he's doing. Oftentimes the truth is he's not 100% sure. But it's his responsibility to hide that doubt from the people he's leading. He can handle it. He can handle the weight and the pain of the doubt. Oftentimes they can't. They just need a leader. So you have to learn how to hold this doubt inside, deal with it, and still move forward. Another thing which is vital to this conversation is you must learn how to communicate effectively as a leader. A big part of that is really learning how to listen to people and starting to understand other people's psychology, having empathy. These things are important. But what's even more important, in my opinion, is developing the language and communication skills of a convicted leader. Not a convicted felon, by the way. Stay away from that if you possibly can. So a leader doesn't use certain words, I found. A lot of people use the word try very, very often. It looks like this. Hey, can you take care of that assignment for me? And the other person says, yep, I'll try to do that tonight. Now, what I hear is, I probably won't do that tonight. Likewise, if I invite someone to come to a party and they say, I'll try to come, it's my assumption, my presupposition, that they probably won't be coming. Because I live in a world where I surround myself with other men who communicate this way, and when I say, hey, will you take care of that assignment for me tonight? They say one of two things. Yes, I will, or no, I won't. And maybe no, I won't comes with, it'll get taken care of tomorrow, or maybe it comes with, no, I won't, ever. But either way, think about it. Because they were clear, I'm clear, I can now go to somebody else and ask for it, or I can do it myself. When they say I'll try, I have no idea what's going to happen. It leaves me in a vulnerable place where it might not get done, and I could totally have assigned it to somebody else or myself. So you're starting to understand how the word try is incredibly disempowering. And think about this. What level of conviction do you experience in somebody who keeps telling you what they're going to try to do versus a man who says what he's going to do and quite simply does it? And more importantly, which of those do you want to be? So begin to relegate the word try right out of your conversation. Another word which is nefarious is maybe. And I try to avoid that as much as possible. This goes along with a conversation about being decisive. Leaders, men with conviction, because you can always come back to that major definite purpose, it becomes easier to make decisions. Let me give you an example. If I have a decision come to me to be made, I now have a matrix. You see, I have my values, I have my responsibilities, I know my path and my purpose, and I can simply look at, if I say yes, how does that fit into my matrix? And if I say no, how does that fit into my matrix? And which one, yes or no, drives me fastest towards what I want? And that's what I choose. Because of that, I can make decisions rapidly. A person who isn't clear on their responsibilities, value, or purpose, and who hasn't developed the skill of being confident that we did in the last section, will always make a slower decision. And a slower decision not only means missed opportunity, but a slower decision means you're living in the land of maybe way too much. You see, in the land of maybe, nothing is clear, everything is available, but nothing is chosen. And when you live in the land of maybe, you are no longer living in the land of definite conviction, which is where we want to be. So I want you to find a way to get away from maybe. Make a decision. And here's the greatest lesson I ever learned about making decisions. You see, growing up, I naturally have this ability that when I'm presented with a choice, I can see many, many different outcomes down the line, a long way out in space and time. I have an ability to really predict a lot of things happening. And so making a decision, I literally would feel like I was losing half of that potential. The word decide literally means to kill, to cut off, decide, divide and kill. So I literally would feel the loss of all this potential, and it became difficult to make decisions. Then a mentor of mine told me, hey Simon, just because you make a decision doesn't mean you can't make another decision later. And I realized that in making decisions, I wasn't handcuffing myself, I wasn't chaining myself to a particular path. I was just choosing it for now. And a year later, 5 years later, 5 seconds later, it's still available for me to decisively change my mind. And when I saw it from that perspective, I became just naturally faster at making decisions. And life has been better, more pleasant since. Another skill that I would like you to consider developing is the ability to slow things down. We live in a very fast-paced society. Oftentimes, as masculine men, we want to go fast. There's a phrase I used to teach when I was teaching pistol work, which was this: slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And actually, when you slow down in martial arts or any combat skills, you begin to breathe and relax, and then you become more fluid. And when you become fluid, you can move very, very rapidly. The same thing applies in life. Oftentimes we're going too fast and we're missing details, we're missing opportunities, and we're not having the space or time to really apply the level of attention that we need to things, and we miss stuff. So I want you to start to learn how to slow down. When you slow down, for example, in your business day, and you look at all the many things that you have to do, what you'll notice is that many of them aren't that important. They're not important because they don't have a massive impact on your life or your business, and they don't powerfully move you forward towards that definite major purpose. So therefore, they're not that important. You'll always find there's a small percentage of things which, if you did them first and did them well, have a massive effect on your life. But you have to slow down to notice these things. The same is true in conversations. You see, many people have random, wandering, and purposeless conversations which really don't create anything or lead anywhere. It just becomes noise and distraction. And when you're a man of conviction, you really have to start to shy away from noise and distraction so you can focus. So one of the skills that I developed, that I coach a lot of my clients on, is how to have very intentful, purposeful conversations. And here's what it looks like. My analogy is meetings. You see, years ago, I discovered that most meetings were a waste of time. And I decided that unless a meeting had a time limit and an agenda and an outcome, I would let people know that I would not be going. And obviously what happened was I missed some meetings that were random and pointless. And the meetings that may have been random and pointless, they actually developed agendas for. So it became a great result. Conversations are the same way. We have these random conversations without an outcome and without a purpose, and they waste our energy and waste our time in most circumstances. Now, what I recommend first is that every conversation you enter into, you have in the back of your mind an outcome. Even if it's a fun conversation with my son, there's something I want to create in that space. If I'm having a date night with my wife and we're just chatting, I still want to create the outcome of, how do I get to know my wife better? How do I let her know I care more? How do I deepen the connection? So I'm not just chatting, I have an outcome. And then again, we have to learn to slow down. Most people don't talk this way, and when you do, it becomes powerful. People notice. When you get on a phone call with a client, and rather than jumping straight into chatting, you take a step back and you say, hey, Mr. Client, let's just slow this down a little bit if that's okay with you. I want to take a step back and I want to let you know what my goal, what my outcome for this conversation is. And I also want to find out what your goal for this conversation is and how I can help you. And I think if we take this step back and we slow it down, we can really create a very powerful conversation that serves both of us and really creates something amazing. Most people are, one, taken aback when you talk that way, but two, they welcome it because it creates space for them to be present and focused, which is what people want. So begin to change how you have conversations with people. Slow it down, have an outcome, and really be transparent in what you're doing and what you're working on. Another thing I've done, which is kind of funny, people laugh about it. I changed my voicemail. I don't like getting people calling me from numbers that I don't know, and I don't like calling someone back when I'm busy and getting wrapped up in something which is just distraction. So if you ever call me, you'll get a voicemail like, hey, this is Simon Smart. Thanks for calling. Do me a couple of favors. If you don't leave me a message, I probably won't call you back. Clear. And I may not call you back immediately. I'll probably check my voicemail at the end of the day. So if you want something more immediate, send me a text message, let me know what it is, and I'll get back to you faster that way. And it's amazing. People call me, they don't leave me a message, I don't call them back. Clears my space. Or they leave me a message, and at the end of the day, I call them back, and they never expected me to call them earlier because I explained it. And lastly, when it's important, they text me, and this is the beauty. So often, I can write a quick response, send, and not spend 10 minutes getting distracted. So start to control your space and your time like that. Start to have more binary conversations. You see, we often get taught that it's important to ask these open questions. An example of an open question is where I might say, hey, what's on your mind? How are you doing today? These are questions that can be answered with a yes or a no, so they lead to a discussion, which leads to rapport. It's a very, very important skill to have. But the neglected side of this is that sometimes you want to have a conversation where you ask black and white, yes or no questions. Because these are the questions sometimes we have to ask to actually create the outcome and the certainty that we need to have to continue to push towards that major definite purpose. Here's what it looks like. Hey, I want to have a conversation with you, and this is what it's going to look like today. And at the end of the conversation, I'm going to ask you if you're ready to move forward or not. Reframe it. And then I get there and I say, hey, we've had a great conversation. I'm going to ask you if you're ready to move forward, if you want more of this, or if you wanted to jump into this endeavor with me. Is it a yes or a no? And wait. You can have a lot of fun with this. I actually recently coached a business who had a manager in a pretty important position who had some behaviors that weren't really helping the company. So he's a great employee, but he had a behavior that was detrimental. And they wanted to get wrapped up in trying to coach him or talk to him or convince him that he should stop. Very weak behavior for a company. So here's what we did. I coached them and they created a different conversation. It looked like this. They sat down with the manager. They said, we love what you do here. We love your results. We think you're a great company employee. You're very valuable. Having said that, this behavior over here has to stop. And here's why. So here's the question for you. Is the behavior going to stop, or is the behavior going to continue elsewhere? Well, the employee said, you're right, it's going to stop. And it did, because he was put on the spot, black and white question, and the company got what they wanted. So these binary conversations, you may not want to have them all the time, but they're very, very powerful to have in your back pocket, to have the confidence and the conviction to pull that out and have that direct conversation with someone. Years ago, somebody told me that it's the mark of a successful person. Actually, I'm telling you this wrong. What was said to me was that a person's success can be measured in the number of difficult conversations they're willing to have. Because most people run away from difficult conversations. When you know your purpose and your values and you have that matrix, you can jump in, take care of business. The last thing I want to talk to you about is decision making. You see, most of us are slow at making decisions. Having said that, very successful people in business and life make very rapid decisions. Why is that? Well, firstly, when you don't have the confidence in yourself to make a good decision, it becomes difficult to make. And so you have to have that confidence, but more importantly, you have to just practice the skill of making fast decisions. And here's how you make a decision. When you have your values and your responsibilities and your major definite purpose correct, and you know where they are, a decision comes in, you run it through the matrix, you make the decision. Does it meet my criteria for who I am, or does it not? Another way to do this is to just practice decision making. So when you go to a restaurant, look at the menu, give yourself 20 seconds, make a decision. When you're doing all kinds of things, if you think about buying something online below a certain price point, don't read 50 reviews. Read one, buy it, done. Because the amount of time, space that creates for you is incredible. So, covered a lot of ground here. Consider these ideas. Fit them into the man that you know that you need to be. Adopt some of them. And if there are other things you need, go out and find those skills. Go and model people who have those skills that you want to model. That's really what the key to this is. So come back on the next video, and I'll share with you 2 other behaviors which are very powerful when it comes to creating a life where you can be at your maximum level of high performance and effectiveness. I'll see you in the next video.